You are listening to your boy C-Roc. Welcome to the show, the What Are You Made Of with Mike C-Roc podcast, episode 3. Glad to have you with me. I'm excited to be here. And just wanted to talk today, the topic today, and continuing my introduction to my story. I gave some the last couple shows, but I got a good topic today to talk about. It's something that happened when I was younger, and how it relates to things today, as I see them, about everybody wanting to feel the best emotionally or be the best at something, and why it's not happening, or why they don't do it, or why they don't pursue it. But if given the choice, they would really want to be the best. And by the way, this podcast is sponsored by Nations Lending. We're home loans made human, and we do all residential mortgages, and I'm proud to have them as a sponsor of our podcast. They've been a big supporter of mine and also getting this podcast up and running, along with everything that goes into it, because a lot of people see the podcast, but they don't really know all the behind the scenes things that go into putting it together and promoting it and all that. So very thankful for Nations Lending. But anyway, being the best, wanting to be the best, want to feel the best. Why don't people go after that more? Even with the fact of given the choice that they would love to do that. I want to tell a story regarding this, and it goes back to my childhood again. I like to revert back to my childhood because I was a very observant child. I would watch things and then ask questions of why they are, or why is so-and-so acting like this, and why did so-and-so do this? And my grandmother, and God rest her soul, had some issues. Everybody has issues, but she had some emotional issues, mental issues that she went through. And the answers that I got regarding them is she grew up in an alcoholic household. My grandfather used to tell me a story about when he first went over to my grandmother's house on a date or to meet her parents. Her father gave him a glass, a highball, straight of whiskey or some kind of liquor, and that was how he greeted him, like it was normal. So alcohol was prevalent in that household. I don't know much more details regards to that, but I know that it wasn't the best upbringing for my grandmother, and so she had some mental issues stemming from that that she was unable to escape. And I would remember there would be times when I was a kid and my mom and I would go to visit her, and we would knock on the door, and she wouldn't answer, even though she knew we were coming over. And I remember that as a kid, like young. I mean, I'm talking 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old. And if my grandfather wasn't home, he was at work, my grandmother just wouldn't answer the door. I guess she would be just in her bedroom in a, depressed or suffering from some kind of emotional situation. And then we would leave, and my mom would get upset. And then as a kid growing up into my teens, I remember when I would go to my grandmother's and she would be in a better mood, I would bring the topic up to her, and I would talk to her about it. And I'd say, why do you feel like this? And why do you go through these phases like this where you won't answer the door when we're coming over? Other people that have those situations in their family, you may relate to this, where around holiday times it gets worse for some reason. I'm sure I could speculate on why that is, but there's been holidays back in the day where there would be an accident or something, and a car accident because she took too many of her antidepressants or anti-anxiety pills, and then we would be trying to get together for the holidays, and then here we were, worried about her being hurt from an accident or what have you. So, a lot of this stuff, some people say, why do you share this stuff about your family? Because you know what? I'm on a mission. Your boy C-Roc is on a mission to help inspire people that go through these things and stop suffering and playing the victim role from them. There's got to be a point where some people talk about this stuff and bring it up and share it, and share how things were overcome, what we've learned from it. So if you're thinking that, like, I can't believe this guy's sharing this stuff about his family, that's why. And when your purpose and your mission is bigger than worried about being embarrassed by something or, hiding things, you share it, because it's going to help people going forward. And I think that, like I said, my grandmother's no longer with us, but I think she would want that deep in her heart to help others get out of that situation that she felt. So with that being the case, I remember talking to her. I would sit there and I'd say, listen, there's no excuse for the feeling that you're feeling. You're just giving it an excuse. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to feel the best. You just have to commit to it and do it. You just have to. And, after our talks, and this is when I'm probably 12, 13, 14 years old here, I'm giving counseling. And it's probably because of the events that took place prior to that in my life. But I'm telling her, you know what? You make a decision right now, and you can decide one way or the other. And I know you've all heard that before, but this is a young kid saying this. And she would always tell me, you know what, Mikey, and everybody called me Mikey when I was younger. I wasn't your boy C-Roc. But she'd say, you know what, Mikey, every time I talk to you, I feel so much better. And, that made me feel good. It made me feel like I was accomplishing something. I was getting through to her. And as I got older and got my license and I started to drive, I would drive to her house to go visit her, and she wouldn't answer the door. And you know what I did? I didn't turn around and get in the car and leave. I went to the back bedroom door or the window, knocked on that window. Hey, come on. Come open the door. I'm not leaving until you open the door. Because I felt that if I could get in there and have a talk with her, that I could cheer her up and make her feel better. And so, that went on and went on. And well, I went to college in 1995. I went to college. I left, and it was a 2.5 hour distance between my grandmother and myself. And, although we had family back home that, support her and be around her, I don't think they had that touch that I had. I feel like I had a way with her that I could talk to her and make her feel better. So I came home from college, I want to say, I don't know the exact year, but I came back from college and probably 2 years in, maybe 1997. And I remember coming in the front door, and when I walked in, my stepdad, George, great guy. And by the way, I got tons of stories about him, but I walked in and George said, hey, Mikey, your grandmother killed herself. And he didn't really have a way of filtering or making things more nice. I don't know what phrase I'm looking for there, but easing into a situation. He was very black and white and direct, obviously. And when he said that, it really hit me like a ton of bricks. I fell down on the floor and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I can't even believe this happened. And then I went through the thing with my mind where I started feeling like, man, is this my fault? I went away to college. I wasn't there for her, which obviously none of those things are valid. But, you go through that phase. And, at that moment, I just was looking for my mom to see where she was so that I could, comfort her. But needless to say, why do people go through that? Despite their childhoods, despite their growing up, why is it that they can't break free out of that mode, that self-defeating, self-destructive moods, actions? So that's what I want to talk about today. And so that's part of what I'm made of. I went through some of these experiences, and a lot of people don't know these stories that I'm going to tell you on this podcast. I'm sure when I have guests come on, they're going to be telling some stories that other people don't know about, and this is what this is all about. And I talk about this all the time. It takes courage to go through this stuff because, it could be people are worried about what people think, or, people wouldn't really care, or, you got to get over those things and get this stuff out. And one, it helps me, but not only that, I know one person at least listening to this, it's going to help. It's going to impact someone. And that's what matters to me. And my goal with you doing this podcast and on my journey right now, the mission that I'm on is to inspire millions. I have a big, massive goal, but what makes it all worth it is if one person is inspired by it. So why do people do that? Okay, and if we think about something, we all want to be, deep down, if given the choice, we all want to be the best employee, the best business owner, the best employer, be the best at our job. We want to be the best husband in our marriage, or best wife, best father, mother. I can go on and on. Son, daughter, friend. We want to be the best. But there's something that keeps us from doing that. And I think really when it comes down to a couple things, but I think some people don't want to sacrifice what it takes to do that. So that's one of the things I see just in reviewing. And I'm no doctor. I don't have a degree in this or anything. This is just from my observation. But I think some people don't want to sacrifice something that would lead to feeling better or being the best, whether it's the work that would go into it, the time, the effort. But not only that, I think also, and by the way, before the show's over today, I'm going to share with you 4 things that I use to strive to be the best in everything that I do. And I think being the best is subjective. I mean, I think no matter how good we get at something, that you can always get better. But just trying to reach as close to your potential in these areas as possible. But I think that besides not wanting to sacrifice something, some people that grow up with alcoholic parents, abusive parents, drugs, lack of one parent or the other, orphans, etc., I think that they're lacking knowledge and data on something. But not only that, the messages that they do receive, the knowledge that they do receive from parents or other people that are impressionable around them at a young age is fed to them with a message of you can't be the best, you're limited, don't even bother. And a lot of that comes out. And then I think that really affects people to the point where they don't write down massive goals that give them hope and excite them. And that, I think, is a big reason, especially with alcoholic parents, drug addicts, or folks that are being brought up by people that had that have grandparents that were that. So it just follows and streams, goes down the line. So, and I look back to, I had an uncle that, I love him to death. He was like a big brother to me. And he struggled with alcoholism, I think still to this day. And to the point where, you actually have to separate from them. You try to help as much as you can, but at some point you pray for them and wish them the best, but you got to separate yourself from them, because then it becomes a self-destructive thing for you to be around them if they're not willing to take on your counsel or your help. So it went down the line with that as well. And even my mom, I mean, she'll admit it herself. She suffered from some things from this, and she'll be the first to tell you how I try to work with her and counsel her and get her focused on the right things. And I'm very blessed that my mom was a great mom, man. I'm thankful to have her. I love her to death. We call her Crazy Mom, endearingly call her Crazy Mom, and not because of mental crazy, but we call her crazy because she's just wild and crazy. And she's just fun to be around. And I think anybody that's met my mom, Joyce, will agree. She's fun to be around. She's goofy. She's just a good time. So, anyway, my kids call her Crazy Mom. But I think the people that are going through these things lack knowledge, data. It's one thing that would help big time is to have a support person like myself. When I was a kid, I was not qualified by any means, but have someone to basically set them straight and say, hey, listen, you're playing a victim role here. You have a choice, and just remind them of that, because I think it gets blinded in their mind that they actually do have a choice of how they can feel and how they can act and how much work and effort they can put into things. I talked about info already. Having someone support or mentor them into showing them how to create goals that create excitement and hope. And someone that can hold them accountable and plan of action. I mean, this is stuff that goes on in businesses and sports and anything you're trying to accomplish, but it goes for trying to be the best in anything and feel the best too. A lot of people don't think about writing goals down for focusing on your mental health. That's something that I don't think a lot of people take a lot of focus on. And then making sure that the results happen and looking for results, and then going and riding off of each one and trying to gain some momentum. So those are some things that I see that people could work on. And that's reasons that they don't feel good or go try to be the best and feel the best, or, and thinking about marriages, by the way, I was thinking about this. My wife and I are going to be sitting down today, and we're starting something. Every weekend we're going to spend time, 30 minutes to an hour, and we're going to go over our goals together as a family. And it's not just financial, and it's not just business, and it's not just having to do with money, but it has to do with emotions, treating each other right, our schedules, making sure we're on the same page. Because you know what? I want the best marriage. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the husband of the year. As my friends and I joke around, we call it HOY, H-O-Y, husband of the year. I want to be that. And not only that, besides that, on top of it, I want to be an example for my son and my daughter. I don't want to have a string of kids seeing broken families. I want to break that chain on my end, on my side of things. That's important to me. And I want to provide an example for them. So sitting down and being on the same page with my wife. And I can tell you this too, when you're in a marriage or a relationship, and if you have conflict, if you're not feeling quite right about things, it's important to sit down and talk about it with your spouse. Don't shy away from it. Don't run away from don't run around too, yeah. But don't shy away from the hard conversations and the hard questions. Sit down. First and foremost, let them know that you care, and this is the reason that you want to talk about things, and hit it head on. And then maintenance of the relationship is important. So every weekend, if we sit down and do that, besides a date night that we may have, but if we actually sit down intentionally and talk about how we can have the best marriage, and part of the reward of that is being a great role model and model for our kids and our friends and anybody that might be watching. And trust me, there's more people watching than you think. Anything that we do, there's people watching. And you have to think that at all times, not like Big Brother watching, but watching to see what they can learn, how to act. You'd just be surprised that you may not think you're a role model, but you affect people. No matter who you are, you affect someone in your actions and your words. And so something to be aware of. So I'm doing this, I'm sharing this stuff with you. Listen, I don't know all the answers, but I do know what works for me. And anything that works for me, I'm going to share it because I don't want to keep it to myself. If it helps me, it can help someone else. So anyway, so that's being the best spouse. Talking about at work, being the best at work. Like, why would you get up in the morning and do anything and go to work and not try to be the best at it? I think a lot of people don't do it, don't step up and be leaders, don't step up to be a top producer, is because of the pressure that comes along with that. And I talk about that a lot. You might have heard me say that before, but there's a lot of pressure coming from someone that steps up to be a leader, one. Number two is top producer. Number three, coming out like this and sharing a story of your past that has affected you or that has shaped you. There's a lot of pressure that goes along with that. And so I think a lot of people don't do things like that because of the pressure that comes along with it. And so you just need to understand, you got to understand that the impact that you can have by being a leader, by being a top producer, not even a top producer, just a good producer, but trying to be the best you can be and reach your potential and sharing stories, the reward from that and the impact from that is way bigger than the pressure of having to do it all the time or the fear of an anxiety that comes along with it. You have to just be able to understand the impact that has. So anyway, I'm going to end today talking about 4 things in closing that I do personally to strive to be the best in anything that I do. And, obviously I'm human, so I go through days where it's tougher than others. I like to try to be a superhero. I always say, hey, man, I'm built for this. I'm built for this. I got this. But I usually do that because I'm trying to talk myself up when I need it. So anyway, number 1, I set goals that get me excited and create hope. And I set big, giant goals, big visions. And I didn't always do that in the past. But I've learned over the last few years that that's a very, very important thing to do. Because when you wake up in the morning and you have something to look forward to, it's easier to get out of bed. It's easier to go through the tough things that you run into. It's easier to deal with people that aren't the nicest, so to speak, or it's easier to deal with the difficult people. But when you set goals, you have something that you're aiming for instead of just running all over the place. It's a form of being proactive rather than reactive, which I always preach on this. Chasing proactiveness rather than reactiveness. Because I can tell you when I get in a reactive mode, man, I get scrambled. I just feel stressed. I don't feel good. I'm all over the place, and it's not a good feeling. And then the people around me suffer because of that. And so I have to set goals that are massive. I have to have a target. I have to be clear on that. And I have to be very, very intentional with where I'm going because, again, it's for me, I can have that mood set in. And, I don't want that to set in. I want to feel good. So I purposely do that. Number 2, be grateful for everything that you have. But you also still have to know that you have to continue to push forward towards your goals. So there's a difference between being grateful and then sitting back and getting comfortable and complacent and then not striving because eventually you're going to have less and less to be grateful for. But you need to be grateful. And the enemy of gratitude is complaining. So I can tell you right now, the most successful people on the planet in anything, business, family, relationship, are not complainers. They very, 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 very rarely complain about things. When you complain about things, you're not grateful for things. So this is something that, I'll challenge you this week to think about throughout your week and try to catch yourself when you're complaining and note other people when you're interacting with other people if they complain or not. And just make a mental note. You can point it out if you want to. I like to point things out to people because I tell them, listen, I'm doing this for myself. I like to do it for you too. Something for you to think about. I never shy away from those kind of things. But just try to take inventory of your complaining and how grateful you are. And listen, every morning, it's important to get up, man. Every morning I wake up, I say, man, thank God. Thank God I can move my legs. Thank God I can move and get off the bed and stand up. I can breathe. I can see. I can hear. I literally do that. And some of you might think that's corny. I don't know, but I feel like that's a very important thing to note first when you wake up in the morning. And thankful for the spouse that's laying next to me, my kids, and all the stuff that I have is because of God. So, and I'm thankful for that. And I always go through that every morning. And it's a good thing also to write things down. When you have things happen, wins, success throughout the day, at the end of the day, write things down that happen that are good. That's being grateful. If you don't do that, you will find yourself complaining more. You'll have a bad attitude, and it'll lead you down the wrong road of feeling bad, not being the best at what you can do. So number 1, set goals big and huge on things that get you excited and create hope. Number 2, be grateful for everything. And make sure you continuously do that and end the complaining. Number 3 goes back to the first 2 things with a constant reminder of those 2 things. Constant reminding myself to make sure I have my goals in mind. Constant reminder of being grateful. Constant reminder of not complaining. And trying to keep myself away from complaining people. Not tolerating it because it's contagious. So that's number 3. Number 4, it's a big one for me. Help others around me. Be a help. Help others. I've done this since I was a little kid for some reason. I don't know why I did it. I just did. I always wanted to try to cure and be a fixer. And if nothing else, try to help other people. And, maybe it started with my grandmother. It started with my mom. And you know what? When I was younger, I remember something too. I'm just remembering now. Like I try to help others people, and I don't want to bring up some stories right now, but maybe later. But I'd help some people, and they wouldn't take it, and they didn't respond well. And this is when I'm a young kid, man, thinking about this, and it would hurt me. I'm like, I just don't understand why they don't want help, why they don't want to feel better, why they don't want to look at things a little differently. I don't have the answer for that, but helping others always feels better than when you're getting something. And it always, if everyone would act like that and take action on helping others first, especially when you feel bad, if you help others, it makes you feel good. Now, the other thing is, if any of these 4 areas, setting goals big and massive that get you excited and hopeful. Number 2, being grateful, not complaining. Number 3, the constant reminder, the first 2. And number 4, helping others around you. If any one of those or a combination of those is off, you're going to have issues with the way you feel and being the best that you can possibly be. And I can tell you this too. When those are off, you'll feel conflict in your life. You'll feel something's not quite right. And when I feel that, I do a self-assessment of those 4 things. So this is stuff, I'm sharing with you that I do. I'm not, trying to preach to you, but if it works for me, I know it will work for other people. And so, when I look at these things here, it's a kind of a self-assessment. And even when I'm feeling good, I always make sure I go back to these 4 things and make sure I'm doing them. And, it just keeps me going. And obviously it's putting some good out in the world. And that knowing that makes me feel good. So, and again, providing a great example to my kids, my partners, the people that work with me, and for all of you. So I wanted to come to you on this day here today and go over these things with you. If you want to engage more with me, I have a Facebook page, Facebook group called What Are You Made Of with Mike C-Roc. Please feel free to join. I'm also going to be continuing to engage with you on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, put more podcasts out. I got 10 other podcasts booked to be a guest on other people's shows. Looking forward to that. I want to share with as many people as possible. I have a big lofty goal, like I told you, to share with millions of people, inspire millions of people. And this isn't about me. This is about every single person that hears my voice that I could possibly impact in some way, shape, or form, because I want to help. And this is a great way to get the word out on a podcast where people can listen. And please, if you're listening, share with your friends, family, coworkers. Introduce them to the What Are You Made Of movement, because I'm going to continue to push this hard. I believe in it. And, we're starting to get some momentum here. And if we can create a snowball effect, like I always talk about in our business, where it just takes a hold of itself and it just rolls. And, we're just helping as many people as possible. This, by the way, I want to help people in business and grow their business and help them make more money and take care of their families. But I also want people to feel good more. And so that's my mission. So right now I'm going to continue the intro part of the What Are You Made Of movement to get this thing rolling. And we'll move into some other topics and campaigns as we move forward. But I thank you. I love you. I appreciate all of you for joining me and listening, and anyone that shares this podcast. And please subscribe. We want to continue the movement here. And when you get a notification that a new episode's been released, I want you to jump on here and listen and engage with me. Please, I welcome your feedback. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you want more of, what you liked. I need you to help me too. So it's your boy C-Roc signing off, and I hope you have a great week. Thank you for being a part of the What Are You Made Of podcast. So that you don't miss future episodes, please rate and subscribe to the What Are You Made Of podcast on your favorite listening or viewing apps, and follow me on your favorite social media platforms. I would love to hear your stories and past experiences and engage with you further.